So good afternoon, everyone. Thank y'all for coming out. Here to talk about how Mayor Summy and I will be working together to make sure that we do things appropriately for all children. Behind me are principals from North Charleston. They are here not to indicate a support for one way or the other on what the controversy is. They're here because they're concerned about the students and their outcome. They have seen tremendous gains over the last year or so in their schools. They want to make sure that they maintain those gains. All the schools up in North Charleston have shown growth from the this past fall to the winter now on the interim assessments. All of our middle schools in North Charleston show gains. Our CTE program up at the East Cooper CAS has seen tremendous growth in the number of students that are coming in and other gains that we have up there. So we want to make sure that those continue, and that's why the principals are here to hear what I, as the superintendent, have to say. I'm not here to refute everything that the mayor in North Charleston said. Again, my approach is to collaborate. I will cite a few facts and more because I used to be the CFO, so the numbers are in my head pretty clearly. So in terms of the operating resources, financial resources that we allocate to North Charleston, I think it's equitable. We have about 30% of our students from across the district from North Charleston, so 30% of all of our students. We allocate for this year $622 million directly into our schools across the county, all schools. Out of that $622 million that's allocated to our schools, 35.6% is allocated to schools in North Charleston. So that is $222 million out of the 622 that go into schools in North Charleston. If you look at that on a per pupil basis, across the entire district, on average, we spend $14,000 per student per year. If you look at North Charleston, that breaks out to over $16,000 per student. And then if you take a look at the acceleration schools within North Charleston, that equates to $19,500 per student. So I believe, based on that there's equitable distribution of financial resources from operating standpoint to our schools. Now, there are concerns that the City of North Charleston has expressed about maybe disparities in facilities. In my role as superintendent for the last 13 months, I spent a lot of time in schools across the entire county, and when I go into schools across the county, I too notice that there are some disparities. And I don't know why those disparities, how they got created, but I do know that they do exist, and I know my staff and I are working to try and figure out how to resolve those. And that's one of the things I want to make sure that I sit down with Mayor Summy and his staff to be able to do that. I talked about the academic gains. I think you all heard me at the board meeting, my support of what our academic departments are doing, our principals are doing. We're showing growth, and I'm really concerned about any disruptions to that, whether it's coming through eliminating programs that we have in place or splitting the district apart in the problems that may cause. Now, so for instance, if you take a look at the tax structure and how revenue is allocated across the state and within districts for school districts, it's on a need basis. So, for instance, Charleston County is the richest county in the state of South Carolina, richest in terms of property values. And so there's an expectation that some of our revenue that we raise here in way of sales tax, when it goes to the state, some of that would be used to support school districts and counties where the resources are not so great. So for every dollar that we send up to Columbia from Charleston County, we only get about 30 cents back from that. So the other 70 cents then go to support school districts in counties like Colleton County, places where there are the tax base does not exist. Now up in North Charleston, because of all the manufacturing and the businesses they have up there, they in fact do have a strong tax base. And if they were to disconnect from the county, what's going to happen, I would predict, is that in the parts of the county, especially out in the rural parts of the county, where those tax bases do not exist, then those students are going to to suffer. So you raise taxes in North Charleston because you have the tremendous tax base. Some of that tax dollars go out to Hollywood, District 23, Ravenel, the Sea Islands, up north in Arendelle and McClellanville, where those tax bases do not exist. And if North Charleston pulls out, then that's going to have a negative impact on that. And that's not just my speculation. I've seen that elsewhere in the country. Down in Louisiana, there's a parish there that did this a few years ago, where the district split, and they ended up with the haves and the have-nots, and those students that were struggling then, they're struggling more so now. So moving forward, it's my intent to collaborate with the mayor. In fact, right before I walked into this room here, got indication that my people and the mayor's people have been talking, and so we will get together and figure out how we can collaborate and make sure that we do approach this the best way that we can in terms of support for kids. And so in fashioning a bill and moving forward, perhaps there's a feasibility study that needs to be done to figure out exactly how to make any kind of move without negatively impacting our students. And the last thing I heard right before I walked into the room was that there's another bill that was just posted to consolidate Charleston County, Berkeley County, and Dorchester school districts. So we have one bill to split and another bill to consolidate. And I would contend that if we move too rapidly in either direction, then kids are going to be the ones that are harmed. So I'll take a couple questions.
You also data about the percentage of North Charleston students. Do those numbers include magnet schools as well? The city says that there aren't a lot of North Charleston kids in those magnet schools.
So those numbers do not include charter schools and Meeting Street, but they include all other schools.
Superintendent, it looked like in the statement yesterday, you guys said that you hadn't spoken with the mayor since February of last year. There appeared to be at least an email from his office to someone in the school district around May. Can you just touch base on that again? You know, how long or when was the last time that you directly communicated with anybody in the city?
So a lot of times the communication is not directly from me, but from staff. And so that would have taken place sometime last calendar year. I don't remember the exact month. There was a proposal that was submitted that was being discussed with the North Charleston and with the CCSD about a specific academic program. So what I did, I had our academic people take a look at it. I have some of the principals here standing here that actually looked at that program. I don't remember how many principals looked at it, but there was several across the district, as well as chief academic officer and the deputy superintendent. And it was determined that what was being offered by this program was already being offered by the high schools in the district, including the Cooper River CAS, which is the principal standing here.
Is the district responsive enough to local governments?
I'm sorry?
Is the district responsive enough to local governments that may have inquiries for you?
So one of the things that I've talked about since I've been in this role, and I've started accelerating those conversations, is the need to have an ecosystem for our kids here. And so there's not just the responsibility of CCSD for the well-being of students. I just left, right before coming here, I just left this Chamber of Commerce board meeting, and I talked about this at the Chamber, where we need to make sure that all entities, whether it's government, school district, municipal governments, businesses, come together and create this ecosystem to support the well-being of our kids.
What's your expectation that this effort will be successful?
I'm sorry?
What's your expectation that this effort will be successful?
Well, at this point, I don't have any expectations one way or the other in terms of the success or lack thereof. My position is that collaboration is needed. It is not necessarily collaboration initially about how do we dismantle. It's a collaboration how do we come together and figure out how to make sure that we are able to continue the academic gains that we're beginning to see.
Do you think that you as the superintendent need to be more directly in contact with people like Mayor Summey moving forward as opposed to just staff members? talking to their staff members?
So one of the challenges that I found when I came into the job was being able to make sure that I, as the leader of the organization, able to collaborate with a number of people, number of entities. I've met with Mayor Tecklenburg. I met with the town council out in Mount Pleasant. I've talked with different elected officials. This past week, we had the local legislative delegation in this room for a breakfast to talk about some of the common things that we see. So yes, I will be reaching out. I have been reaching out. But in addition to reaching out to local elected officials, there's also a need for me to reach out to principals, to families. I spend a good bit of time going to different churches throughout the county to make sure that the faith community understands what's going on. I have an interfaith roundtable. So I'm doing a lot of outreach. So yes, I will continue that.
Where do you think this is coming from? North Charleston schools have lagged for the last 30 years.
Well, I don't know. I'm not speculating. There's concern that's been expressed. I've acknowledged that I agree with some of those concerns. I also acknowledge that we are pouring a lot of money into schools in North Charleston, and I've also talked about what the risks are if we move too quickly. And so I'm ready to talk and to make sure that we are able to work to see how we support kids the best that we can.
Did the mayor's comments come as a surprise?
I'm sorry?
Did the mayor's comments come as a surprise to you?
Well, I don't know if it came as a surprise. I mean, if you look at North Charleston, there are a lot of issues that have to be resolved, not just associated with what happens in the classroom. You know, I was up in North Charleston and they're engaging with some middle school boys back in the fall, and it was in a neighborhood where I was told has the highest crime rate in the state of South Carolina. And so there are other issues other than just what's happening in the district. And so there's not a surprise to me when anyone expresses concern about children not being well, children not performing well.
And do you have an opinion or a comment to make on the bill to consolidate the districts?
So my comment is this, that things like this need time for deliberation, and we need to get people in the room and deliberate as opposed to just automatically putting something in place. All right, so with that, I'll take one more question, and if otherwise.
Well, if you can, you spoke in general about disparities you've noticed. Can you speak specifically about that? You know, Charleston mentioned specifically, for example, the District 4 Stadium and how they asked for a track. The track wasn't included around the field, though other schools like in Mount Pleasant have them. So can you speak specifically about maybe disparities you noticed as you told the district?
I don't want to get into too many specifics. I'll say this: I have 5 children. I mean, they're all grown. I've lived in a lot of places, you know, when they were growing up, and so I've been into a lot of school facilities. I'm a runner. I spend a lot of time on high school tracks, even today. So yeah, there are some disparities, but I don't want to get into any specifics other than that we need to take a look at how we support all areas of the county, and that's what we're committed to doing. So thank you all very much.
Thanks. Thank you so much.